like to think of it as like post-war, post-colonial mindset, where people are just like, oh well, this is good enough, and like people shouldn't be thriving and happy. Like that's not the baseline. People should just be getting by, and that's the baseline. And if you're doing any better than that, then you're like rich, or you've got too much. And it's like, shouldn't we be working as hard as we're working in order to live excellent lives? Hi guys, how's it going? My name is Eddie, and I've been running my product-based business for around a year and a half now. And today I want to talk a little bit about why I want to run my business and quit my corporate job. So I'm going to try and approach this in a sensitive way, because I know that a lot of people do actually want corporate jobs. They want to progress with their career, or they can't get into the corporate world and they're quite, desperate to do so because it would offer them a lot of advantages. I understand that I'm coming at this from a place of relative privilege. I grew up middle class. I grew up expecting to get a good corporate job, and I followed the track that I was supposed to be on my entire life. But working corporate, for me, as somebody who has worked in several corporate roles over the past 10 years, really just doesn't appeal to me anymore. I say anymore, it's never appealed to me. I've never really wanted to do it. It's just something that I felt like I had to do, something that I felt was the only thing that I could do for a really long time. And I always felt that starting my own business, doing my own thing, was something that was like completely out of my reach, not possible for someone like me because I didn't have a background in it, or I didn't know anyone else who was a successful entrepreneur. And I didn't really realize until much more recently that you don't need all of those things. Anyone can start a business, and actually working in corporate is not the be all and end all, nor is it the most amazing thing in the world. So yeah, I think I just wanted to preface this by saying that I'm coming at all of this from a very personal point of view. It's based solely on my own experience. It's solely based on my personality as well. Please do not be offended if this doesn't apply to you, or if you have your own reasons for wanting to start a business. I just wanted to share a little bit more about myself and I guess my background as well. So I think my main reason for not wanting to remain in the corporate world for very much longer is because I find the entire setting, the entire scenario, the entire conceit of working a corporate job very, very fake. By that I mean that there is nothing organic about 10,000 people coming together to try and make decabillionaire stakeholders more rich. Like, it's not very genuine. I feel like a lot of people can ignore that about working a corporate job, but I'm not one of those people who can ignore that. I feel it in my very essence every single day that I have to work. It doesn't matter what job I've had. I've worked for very small companies, I've worked for very large companies of like 10,000 employees or more. I've worked for companies that were making, a modest profit for the owners, but nothing extravagant. And I've worked for companies that have like billionaire stakeholders and are run by like mega corporations and things like that. The company that I currently work over has a £2 billion annual turnover, so that's not profit, that's just like revenues, and that's a crazy amount of money. And a lot of people will feel good about being part of that, contributing to that, but I don't. I just feel that the scenario is very inorganic, and it shows when companies talk about things like their culture, how they're trying to nurture the talent, how they're trying to keep you on as staff. I know this has been said a million times, but your company would replace you the next day if you died. Like, you don't mean anything to them. And I find it so interesting and fascinating when people are so loyal to a company, especially in this day and age where you get nothing in return for your loyalty. There is no long-term benefits, at least in the UK, from what I know, for sticking with a company for a really long time, especially if it's a large corporation. All you get to do is rise up the corporate ladder, one rung at a time. You get a few benefits, I guess. You get a pension. I guess from my perspective, there's just not really anything of value that I'm creating or that I'm getting out of working for a large corporation. It not only applies to the value that I'm putting out there or that I'm getting from the company, but it also applies to kind of the skills that I'm getting to use or that I'm developing as well. I feel like when you work for a corporation, you're kind of, you turn into this little cog, and your cog has a very specific purpose, whether it's, to move this component or to make sure that this part keeps running or to check on that or to create this. And even if you have a role that's relatively creative, at the end of the day, you only get to use a very small part of your skill set, your abilities, your imagination, if you get to use your imagination at all. Most of us do not. I do not in my current role. Now, you may think, oh, well, that's a case of you need to find a new role that's more suited to your personality, or you need to go up the hierarchy a little bit in order to be able to use a wider variety of skills. But first of all, I don't think there is a role out there that gets to use multiple skill sets at once. And second of all, I think actually the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the less you actually get to use the skills that you've spent so long developing. Like, you go, from what I've seen, from what I've personally witnessed from people who are higher up in the company, you go from being somebody who has to actually do work every single day. So whether that's writing or designing, or editing or researching or doing data analytics and things like that, to somebody who utilizes the work that other people have done to make presentations to stakeholders. Like, you basically just become somebody who asks other people to do work, collates that work, or gets somebody else to collate it, and then does the sort of blue sky thinking and then presents that to somebody else higher up in the hierarchy who's asked for it, who again will find a way to try and make profit on it in order to make the stakeholders and the shareholders more money. So it's just this, like, I don't know, it's just this revolving circle, I feel, of like, grunt makes product, grunt does work goes to higher up turns it into product gets presented, product makes money goes to shareholders, and you know, it just keeps going like that. I don't have a personal problem with that. I have no problem with capitalism. I'm trying to run my own business here. What I have a problem with is the fact that I personally am only a small little component in this larger machine, and I have no control over my work. You know, if my company decided to switch up my role tomorrow, I wouldn't really have a say in that. I'd kind of just have to go with it. I don't get to choose what I do. Even if I was a director, I'd still be beholden to whatever the shareholders wanted. So that's the second main reason. I want to be able to use my skills more. I feel like I have a lot of skills to offer, and I feel that even only running my business for like 2 years, so many of the things that I thought I wasn't capable of, so being creative or doing marketing, doing in-depth research about things like SEO and like UX and things like that, I've learned so much more about them. Is sourcing products, freaking logistics, like all of these things that I've never even had the opportunity to dabble in before, I now do on a daily basis, and I find it really interesting and exciting. It's so nice to be able to put your fingers in so many different pies and have creative and directive control over what you do every day, and I just find that way more rewarding than working in corporate. Going back to the cog idea, I think another thing that I really don't like about working in a corporate role is the fact that you're kind of continuing on this growth path that is predefined and that, again, you have no control over. And if you wanted to change it, the only way to do that is by basically getting a different role at a different company. So you might start off as like, you know, everyone starts off at like the grunt level, entry level, then you go to like mid-level, then maybe management, mid-senior, senior, VP, SVP, and then like C-suite basically. And again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this structure, but it doesn't appeal to me to basically very slowly climb a set of stairs and wait for the person in front of me either to go up a level or come off the staircase altogether. Like, it's not interesting to me. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life. I find it so incredibly draining trying to like stay focused on being on that treadmill and stay focused on my job for an entire day, because at the end of the day, all you're really doing is getting into squabbles with HR around how many days a week people should go into the office, when I have a job that I could do perfectly fine from at home, but for, again, shareholder reasons, I can't stay at home and do my job comfortably. I can't explore other roles that I'm not necessarily qualified for, i.e. I don't have like a certified qualification from an institution that says that I can do that, therefore I'm not able to explore that path. It's all just very limiting, and I feel like it boxes you in. And I've seen people that I know and I love mentally box themselves in and be like, oh well, I can't go into that role because I don't have any experience in it, or my degree is not in that, or I don't have time to explore it on my own. And I'm like, the only reason you think that is because you're in this bubble of corporations that have made you think like that make you think you have to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, write a certain way, you can only do certain things, and you're only worth this amount of money. Increasingly in the UK as well, that idea of being only worth a certain amount of money is getting more and more difficult. I've seen so many more conversations online now about how UK salaries are just not good. We are not good. We are totally undervaluing our workforce. We're falling behind the rest of the developed world. We've got a very austerity mindset, and a very I like to think of it as post-war, post-colonial mindset, where people are just like, oh well, this is good enough, and people shouldn't be thriving and happy. That's not the baseline. People should just be getting by, and that's the baseline. And if you're doing any better than that, then you're rich, or you've got too much. And it's shouldn't we be working as hard as we're working in order to live excellent lives, in order to lead fulfilled lives and happy lives, to be able to spend more time with our families? Why are we working this hard if all we get at the end of the day is our basic necessities? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think personally for me, that's the reason why I want to explore doing something by myself, trying to create my own business, create my own opportunities as well. I feel like there's so many opportunities out there that the typical middle-class British person will never experience, because their whole life they've been told, you go to school, you get good grades, you go to a decent university, you get a decent degree, and you get a decent job, so you can get a decent spouse with a decent house and a decent life. And again, I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with this, and if that's how you want to live your life, that's absolutely fine. That's also how I personally was brought up, but I've seen glimpses of better out there, and I want some. I think it's so hard, especially for British people, to get out of that mindset of sort of selfishness or wanting things, or I don't know how to put it. We always feel that people who flaunt their desires, or flaunt their wealth, or flaunt, wanting a little bit more, are somehow stepping outside what societal constraints dictate that the way that you should be living your life. Most British people are risk averse. We're a very sort of safe place. That's why it's very safe to live in the UK. It's very safe to raise your family here. You can get by just by following that beaten path and not making any waves. But I have come to realize that safe isn't the only way to live. It's probably not the optimal way to live, and the way that the global economy is going, it's probably not how most of us should be choosing to live. I think the UK needs more innovation, it needs more spirit, it needs more energy. I feel like we've lost a lot of our energy. As somebody who tries to sell products in person a lot of the time, I can see just people's eyes are sort of glazed over when I'm trying to talk to people and sell them products and things like that. It's almost as if their brain can't engage with the fact that somebody's doing something ever so slightly different, and they'll often question me, why should I buy your product instead of the same thing but generic, mass-produced from a shop? And I think that's a fair enough question, but I also think it misses the point entirely. It's a fair question because you're this product is more expensive than basically the same thing I can get in the shop, right? And so you have to challenge them on the idea that it's the same thing. And when you do that, you can see that it's kind of clicking with them, but we're so resistant to spending money on things that we know are higher quality, that will last longer, that will be better for you necessarily. It's almost like an epidemic of stinginess in the UK. I feel like there's a difference between being frugal and being almost resistant to spending any money, resistant to change. I think it's endemic in our mindset now, and that's the reason why wages haven't gone up. It's the reason why people are settling for less, and it's the reason why it's so difficult for business owners to make a profit, because people act as if there's no money out there, as if there's no opportunity out there, as if there's no way that they could possibly make it. And to link it all back to the original thesis of this video, this is why so many people settle for mediocre corporate jobs when they could be doing more. They could be asking for more. They could be, you know, setting up their own thing, whether it's on the side or full time. Like, it's okay to dream. It's not selfish to want to explore other opportunities, and it's not a bad thing to want to create a different life for yourself. I'm not necessarily trying to become a millionaire, although that would be nice. It's not the purpose of me starting my business. My salary right now is just fine, and it will go up over time. It might track inflation, it might fall behind. I don't know what's going to happen, but what I know right now is that I'm comfortable. I live comfortably, I have a comfortable home, I have a comfortable family, but I'm uncomfortable with being comfortable. And yeah, I just want that to change. So what do you guys think about the corporate world versus kind of like the mindset world? I don't know, I don't consider myself necessarily like a grindy person. I don't do late nights. I wake up fairly early, but it's because I have a child and I have to. I want to hear from you guys. If you're thinking of giving up a corporate job or just a generally comfortable job in order to start your own thing, why is that? Why have you come to the realization that that's what you want? What do other people around you think about it? Interestingly enough, even though everyone around me is basically in a corporate role, everyone is very supportive of me starting my own business. Everyone wants it to succeed. Everyone's very supportive and buys things from me. So I find it very interesting that, I don't know, I feel like I'm on the other side of the looking glass to some extent. But yeah, I'm interested to hear about your guys' experience too. So share them with me. What's your day job like? Do you enjoy it? Are you looking to get out of it? Are you creating your own business just to have on the side and supplement your income? What's your story? But yeah, that's it from me this week, guys. I hope this video was somewhat interesting, and I will see you again in the next one.